Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
In the intellectual furnace of early 17th century Italy, scientific truth was frequently forged through fierce polemical debate. Galileo Galilei's 1623 masterpiece, The Assayer, stands as a preeminent example of this process. A work born from a dispute over the nature of comets, escalated into a profound, revolutionary declaration on the philosophy of science itself. Its target was the Jesuit astronomer Orazio Grassi, who, writing under the pseudonym Lothario Sarsi, had published a treatise on the comets of 1618 from a traditional Aristotelian and Teutonic perspective. Galileo's response transcended the specific topic of comets, using the controversy as a crucible to refine and articulate a new method for acquiring knowledge of the physical world. This was a direct assault on the scholastic tradition, which privileged textual authority and syllogistic reasoning over empirical observation. Galileo proposed a radical alternative, a new grammar for reading the world, transforming a minor astronomical debate into the foundational manifesto for modern scientific inquiry. At the heart of Galileo's methodological revolution is his celebrated pronouncement on the language of nature. He declared that the grand book of the universe lies continually open to our gaze, though it remains unintelligible to those who fail to learn its language. This language, he insisted, is mathematics. Its characters are triangles, circles, and other geometric figures. Without these, it is humanly impossible to understand a single word. Without them, one wanders in a dark labyrinth. This assertion represents a profound epistemological shift. For Galileo, mathematics provided the sole pathway to certainty about the physical world. This was a departure from the metaphorical or abstract use of geometry seen in some philosophical traditions. He was championing the complete mathematization of physics, following the model of his great predecessor, Archimedes, who had successfully applied geometric principles to solve concrete physical problems of statics and hydrostatics. For Galileo, a physical law possessed validity only when it could be expressed as a mathematical relationship. Shape, size, and motion were the objective realities, and their relationships, described by geometry and arithmetic, contained the certain truths of nature. This principle demoted qualitative descriptions and appeals to authority, establishing a rigorous new criterion for what could be considered scientific knowledge. Building upon this mathematical foundation, Galileo introduced a crucial philosophical distinction that would echo through centuries of thought: the separation of reality into primary and secondary qualities. He argued that certain properties are inherent to physical bodies, existing independently of any observer. These primary qualities include size, shape, location, number, and motion or rest. They are absolute and objective, the very components of mathematical description. All other qualities, however, are of a different kind. Qualities like colour, taste, odour, and sound are secondary. They possess no real existence in the objects themselves. Instead, they are names we assign to the subjective sensations produced in our consciousness by the interaction of our sensory organs with the primary qualities of external To render this abstract concept concrete, Galileo offers a brilliant and intuitive thought experiment. He imagines a body being tickled by a feather. The tickling sensation is undeniably real to the person experiencing it, yet this sensation of being tickled is an attribute of the observer, a state of their living consciousness. It resides nowhere within the feather itself. The feather possesses merely a certain shape, a certain mass, and a certain motion. These are its primary qualities. The tickle is a secondary quality, an effect that arises from the interaction between the feather's primary qualities and our own nervous system. By this logic, Galileo proposed that if all living creatures were removed from the universe, the primary qualities of objects would remain unchanged, while all secondary qualities, from the redness of a rose to the sweetness of honey, would be utterly annihilated. This division was profoundly strategic. It carved out a domain for science. A world of primary qualities that was objective, measurable, and perfectly suited to mathematical analysis, while consigning the subjective realm of experience to a separate category. Finally, Galileo championed a method of argumentation based on relentless logic and empirical evidence over the received wisdom of ancient texts. He wielded wit and rigorous demonstration as his primary weapons to dismantle the scholastic edifice Grassi defended. A compelling example is his refutation of Grassis' argument, inherited from Aristotle, that a projectile, such as an arrow, heats up in flight due to air friction. Galileo countered this with a combination of logic and appeals to common experience. He systematically demonstrated the weakness of the claim, questioning the magnitude of the proposed effect and the mechanism itself. He argued that the fleeting contact with air was insufficient to produce such heat, contrasting it with the sustained friction required to start a fire. Through such meticulous, step-by-step deconstruction, Galileo reveals the emptiness of arguments based on authority alone. He showed that a proposition from an ancient master, when examined with the sharp tools of logic and observation, could swiftly collapse. In The Assayer, Galileo was doing more than correcting a peer on the topic of comets. He was teaching a generation how to think, arguing that the pursuit of truth required a new kind of intellectual integrity, one grounded in mathematical reasoning and the careful, critical observation of the natural. This new intellectual integrity rested upon two foundational pillars, one philosophical and the other methodological, whose influence would shape the course of Western thought for centuries. The first pillar, a radical ontology of the physical world, distinguished between the intrinsic properties of objects and the sensory experiences they produce in an observer. Galileo argued that the universe itself possesses quantifiable characteristics: size, shape, location, and motion. These are the primary qualities, the objective letters in the book of nature. All other qualities, such as colours, tastes, sounds, and smells, he proposed were secondary. They exist only within the consciousness of the perceiving subject, arising from the interaction between the primary qualities of the external world and our sensory organs. They are names we assign to sensations, devoid of residence in the objects themselves. This profound distinction found its most influential champion in John Locke, in his monumental 1689 work, An Essay Concerning Human Understanding. Locke adopted Galileo's framework and elevated it to a central tenet of British empiricism. He systematically codified the division, defining primary qualities as those utterly inseparable from a body in whatever state it might be. Secondary qualities were the powers within objects to produce various sensations in us, are their primary qualities. For Locke, as for Galileo, the world science could truly know was the world of mathematically describable, primary characteristics. The subjective world of experience, while real to us, was in effect a shadow cast by the mathematically precise machinery of nature. This Galilean idea, transmitted through Locke, became the philosophical bedrock upon which much of subsequent science was built, cleaving the objective world of measurement from the subjective world of perception. The second methodological pillar of Galileo's new science was his famous declaration that the book of the universe is written in the language of mathematics. Its characters are triangles, circles, and other geometrical figures, without which it is humanly impossible to understand a single word. This was more than a metaphor, it was a complete program for natural philosophy. While Galileo laid out the vision and demonstrated its power in terrestrial mechanics, its ultimate fulfillment arrived 64 years later with Isaac Newton's Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica. Newton's masterpiece is the consummate realization of the Galilean project. It presents a complete system of the world, from the fall of an apple to the orbits of the planets, described and predicted with breathtaking precision by a few mathematical laws. The Principia demonstrated, on a cosmic scale, that nature operated according to a rational, mechanical and mathematical order. Newton took Galileo's assertion that nature speaks in mathematics and composed its epic poem, building an entire intellectual universe upon the grammatical rules Galileo had first articulated in The Assayer. The legacies of these two central ideas have followed remarkably divergent paths. The mathematization of nature has been validated to a degree Galileo himself could scarcely have imagined. The whole of modern physics is a testament to its power. The development of calculus, the formulation of Maxwell's equations uniting electricity, magnetism, and light into a single mathematical structure, the geometric elegance of Einstein's theory of general relativity by gravity is the curvature of spacetime, and the abstract group theory and Hilbert spaces of quantum mechanics all confirm that the fundamental workings of the universe are profoundly mathematical. This Galilean premise is the very ground upon which the edifice of physical science stands today, its most successful and enduring principle. Conversely, the clear division between primary and secondary qualities, while historically potent, has faced centuries of philosophical and scientific interrogation. The philosopher George Berkeley quickly pointed out that our access to so-called primary qualities like shape and size is entirely dependent on our sensory perception, our secondary qualities, thereby questioning the objective status of both. This philosophical critique has since evolved into one of modern science's most intractable puzzles. Physics describes the world in terms of fields, forces, and probabilities, the modern heirs to primary qualities, yet human experience, or qualia, consists of the vivid, ineffable richness of colours, sounds, and emotions. The gap between the third person, Objective description of brain states and the first person, subjective reality of consciousness remains a profound chasm. This is the hard problem of consciousness, a direct intellectual descendant of the distinction first drawn, with such confident clarity, in the Assayer. In final analysis, the enduring majesty of the Assayer lies in its role as a revolutionary charter for science. It articulated a new epistemology, a new way of knowing, that prized mathematical demonstration and empirical evidence above ancient authority and scholastic debate. Its specific arguments concerning comets have faded into the history of astronomy, yet its central philosophical and methodological claims reverberate still. The work established the very terms of scientific inquiry, defining the language appropriate for interrogating nature. Galileo, with the discerning eye of a master goldsmith, separated the pure metal of objective, mathematical truth from the dross of subjective sensation and dogmatic assertion. In doing so, he gave science its authentic voice, a voice that speaks in the precise and universal grammar of mathematics, setting its course for all the centuries to come.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.